Hey, Vibe, what's up, dude?
Yo, what up, man? Yo, my bad
Oh,
about you know, the schedule. Sorry
nah,
about that.
it's all-
Uh, but yeah, man, dude, doing good. Hope you're doing well. How you doing? How you been?
I'm doing well. I mean, it's nice and sunny outside. It's a great day, and I'm inside playing StarCraft. I wouldn't have it any other way.
Nice, man. So you did tell me you just hit Diamond League, which congratulations again. That's fucking awesome.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, that happened in the last hour.
Is that your first time ever hitting Diamond?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, dude. Well, we're gonna have to ramp up your coaching a little bit. Get you ready for Diamond League. Um, and I guess really quickly, just tell me your race then, and your average kind of like play style that you like to play.
Yeah, so, I mean, I play Protoss, and I pretty much follow your bronze to GM. I try and do the same timings. I go for a quick expansion at 1 minute 30,
Nice.
and then when I'm maxed out, I kind of attack. And I mean, it's been working pretty well. I've just got like a couple of replays where I've lost to just compositions I'm not familiar with, like especially against Terran, the Thor Hellbat.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I just want to know like how to anticipate that and how to prepare for that and how to transition out of my normal composition for that, which wasn't really working.
Sure. Sounds good. Are you drunk unit by the way on
Am I what?
StarCraft? Is your name drunk unit on StarCraft? I just got invited. I wasn't sure if it was you or not.
No, 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 that's not me.
Okay. It was a diamond player as well, so I was like, dude, holy shit, you're prepared. Whoa. All right, so yeah, no, that all sounds good. I'll definitely help you clean up whatever you're doing against mech. Mech definitely can be very unforgiving if you, like I would say this. There are particular units that are very, very good against mech, and learning how to use them, I would say, especially now that you are actually diamond, is going to be a good idea for you. Something like a disruptor, for instance, would be maybe something you could start looking into. But yeah, like there's a lot to it. Still, macro is going to be definitely a big part of it. But yeah, we can definitely jump into it and look at a lot of specific things. So if you're not already on, go ahead and jump on the NA server.
Yep.
And then you can find me in the GM list. You can just send me a message that way. And the way you get there.
There we go.
Oh, you got me already?
I see you.
Okay. Yeah, perfect, dude. Hell yeah. And then I'll go ahead and give you leader. And then just go ahead and whatever replay you want to go into, just host it up. And before you start, make me the lobby host of the actual replay. And then we'll be good to go. And then also, if you have any questions as well about anything at any time, even if I'm mid-sentence and you're like, okay, no, I don't want to forget this, I need to say it now. By all means, interrupt me. I don't mind. It's all G.
Awesome.
Because yeah, I want to make sure you feel like you get as much information out of this as you can.
Awesome.
All right.
I feel that in general I'm not that reactive in games. So I pretty much play my game and then hope for the best. So I think I need to start changing that.
I like your Nexus skin, by the way. What fucking skin is that? Is that the new skin? Like
yeah.
Dude, that skin looks sick as fuck. I don't have it myself. I like it. All right. Anyways, so good shit, bro. You're coming prepared, looking great. Okay, here's the first thing. I would honestly recommend not pylon scouting, and the reason why is because there is nothing you're gonna see pylon scouting that is going to change what you should react to, besides a gateway scout. Like, I do think you should scout early, but I think you should do a gateway scout. The pylon scout is the reason. Let me say it in a better way here, I guess. You are going to see such low early developed Terran that you're still not going to know exactly what he's doing. It could still be many things, but if you actually wait a little bit longer and you maximize your mining a little bit more, and you keep that probe mining for a bit longer, because what's happening now is you're staying a probe down the whole, like, for a longer period of time now, when you're not even fully saturated, it's actually huge how much money that is, because it keeps you off max saturation for longer, which is a big deal. Again, that probe is going to I guarantee that probe is going to run around his base, the pylon probe, for like an extra 20 seconds or something like that. When if you would have just sent the gateway probe, you could have went like 18 seconds later, or however long the build time of a pylon is. Yeah, it's 18 seconds. You could have started the probe running across the map 18 seconds later, because that's when you start the gate. And then the extra time you're running around his base just trying to figure out what he's doing, You'll figure that out faster if you gateway scout, is what I mean.
Okay, that makes sense.
And it's still so early if you gateway scout that like you won't be like, oh shit, it's a proxy and I have like 8 Marines walking up my ramp. Like, it's impossible. Because the reason why is because the build time of a pylon is the same as the build time of a supply depot, and the build time of a gateway is the same as the build time of a barracks. So your gateway will still not even be done yet if you get across the map and you go, oh shit, like, where's his barracks? Okay, he's actually proxying me. And if you recognize that, when your gate is like, let's say 80% of the way done, or something like 75% of the way done, which will probably be how far it'll be along when your probe actually gets to his base, you could then react to that and be like, okay, well, I'm getting proxied. I am now going to add on maybe a second gateway, start my core, and get ready to maybe make like a battery or something. You can still easily react to it, is all I'm trying to say. So the money is definitely critical here for your pylon scout. It's you're losing so much money already.
Okay, that's great. That's really helpful, because I do it because I'm worried about proxies.
Exactly.
So I try and see that as soon as possible. But that's nice that I could just do it after the gateway scout and still react.
And the funny thing about it too is that a lot of people don't think about is the longer you stay off of good saturation, which in this probe is like, if you think about it like this, that was your 13th probe, and 1 out of 13 is something like, I don't know, I'm gonna just throw a number right here. I think it's like 8%, or like 8 and a decimal, maybe even like 9-ish%. Out of, if you think about it, like out of 100%, your 1 out of 13 probes is a massive amount of percentage of your total economy that you're missing now. So if you think about that, the amount of money that you're missing early game within the first 12 seconds, because that's the build time of a probe, you're basically gonna find it harder to hold all-ins anyways, because you have less money to work with by the time it shows up. When you're cutting your economy that early to do a scout like this. So there's multiple aspects to it why it is not as effective. And by the time you make your gateway and your pylon finishes, the reason why that's actually okay to scout with is because you're making the gateway because the pylon's done. And when the pylon's done, that is when you first chrono boost your mineral line, your nexus. So you will easily like hit that 16 saturation super fast. It'll like get the perfect saturation will be in quickly, because at that point the pylon or the probe that's going to go scout him, that's gateway pylon, or the gateway probe rather, you're going to already be at 14 out of 16, and you're going to chrono boost your nexus right then. So you're going to hit 16 out of 16 in 12 seconds then, because each probe is only a 6-second build time. It's just basically trying to get to that max saturation as fast as fucking possible. That's almost always the goal of any game of StarCraft if you want to play efficiently and macro wise.
Okay, that's awesome. And is that different for Zerg? Because I do the same thing, just because I'm scared of the early spawning pool.
Yeah, always pylon. Or sorry, always gateway scout. Never pylon scout. The only time, the only time you should ever pylon run a probe across, like build a pylon and then go, is if your second probe that's going to build a building after the pylon's finished is going to build a forge, and you're going to cannon rush. You should only ever do all-ins with the probe this fast, because you're going to get proxies across the map super quick. So you have a purpose there. You're like, I need to get buildings down as fast as possible. But if it's just for macro and just for defensive scouting, it's way too early, because all that's going to happen is all your reactions are going to be delayed because you're missing money that you need right now.
Awesome.
All right, and then nice chrono boost and nice gas. You see the gate, you see the gas. This is very indicative of a Reaper opener. This looks very Reapery because it's the gas and the barracks are started pretty much at the same time. And if you ever, I'll say this too, a lot of Protosses too, their counter argument a lot of the times, which I guarantee you'll run into sometimes, is if your Terran opponent is the kind of guy that's like, I'm going to make my first 2 buildings, my depot, my racks, and then I'm going to really quickly make a second depot, and I'm not going to let you see my base. And then you, as the Protoss player, if you're like, well, ViBE, I gateway scouted, and he's got fucking a full wall on the ramp already, and now I can't get into his base, and I can't see anything. That's not a big deal, because a lot of people freak out when they see that, when they don't really understand the cost of things. You have to realize that if he did that early, there is not, like, the fact that the barracks is not done yet definitely means that there can't even be anything else started yet that is beyond this, like a factory or a starport. He has to tech to it. And then the fact that he made a depot, if he does have another barrack started, it's like really delayed. Or he's cutting SCVs like crazy. There's some discrepancy there, because making a second depot this early to block you out, if that was his plan, is so fast that he's going to delay everything that could have been made faster. He would delay a second barracks. He would delay a command center. He would, and if he's the crazy guy who's like, I'm also going to go double gas while doing double depot this fast, he's going to have the worst economy ever to actually like make units consistently. He'll be able to make some still, obviously, but he's definitely going to have a problem upkeeping his production. And all you have to do to react to this, there's only one thing you got to do, and I think you should just do it always. It's not even just like a reaction to this, it's an always thing. Just always make a stalker first, or you can make a stalker or an adept, whatever you're more comfortable with. I think stalker's better for defensive purposes because it's multi-purpose. It can also then deal with like medevacs later and banshees and widow mines better, which is what a lot of Terrans will go into if you're going to play defensive anyways. I think an adept is better if you're the kind of guy who likes to be aggressive. Like you shut the Reaper down, then go across the map with it. But anyways, I would recommend making a stalker first, and then make a sentry second. And you just hallucinate a phoenix into his base, and you will guaranteed see what is going on in his base before he does any type of timing he's going to do. If he were to be the guy that locks you out of his base like this. Like, guaranteed, there's like no chance that he's going to show up at your base and you're going to be like, oh, fuck. He's doing an all-in and I'm not ready because I had no idea. Because it's so early. The only type of all-in that could happen that's that early, when you're like, oh, well, okay, that's unfortunate, would be if he doesn't take gas at all, he double depots, and then he makes like 3 more racks like on the proxied across the map or something, and you just don't realize it's happening because you can't scout his SCVs. And he shows up with like an SCV pull with Marines. But if that were to happen, all you'd have to do is use that sentry you have anyways and just force field the ramp. And be like, okay, well, we'll just chrono boost our gates and just make more units. Like, basically, all I'm trying to say is, if you open up sentry second, you're very, 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 it's like your percentage is very high, like 90% or up greater or something, that you can shut down every all-in he could do really fast. And you could figure it out, or you could just literally shut it down with a force field. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah. And then yeah. So and then I like the fact that you're going to be going for a nexus here. I think your nexus is maybe a little too early though. I'll say this: you should actually be at 20 supply roughly when you take your nexus. And I feel like I'm going to back it up. I think the reason why you're not is because you've cut probes somewhere, probably unintentionally. I bet it's probably because you were scouting and you were probably distracted. But I'm going to watch your nexus for a second here. Okay, so you have at 103 probe 17, or rather probe 18 because you have one scouting. Probe 18 finishes, and I'm gonna go to your camera. I bet you're looking at your probe. You're looking at his base somewhere. You're just checking his base out, which is fine. You're scouting. But how long does it take you to make another probe? 103 was when you cut. And this is bigger than scouting him, and you're actually saving for your nexus now. So yeah, just don't stop making probes. Your nexus, ideally, the proper time to want to be taking it is your gate, or sorry, your first pylon should be going down the second your first probe is done. Your first built probe builds the pylon, and then your gateway should go down the second the pylon's done. Your nexus and core should go down together, right around 20 supply.
Okay, so I don't need to cut. I don't need to cut probes just before the second nexus.
Yeah. If you do cut probes, it would be like at 20 supply just for a second, so you could afford both the core and the nexus. But the reason why you can definitely afford it now is because you haven't made probes for the last like 16 seconds, and it is with a fully saturated mineral line, or it was until you sent the probe out to go build it, which is good. Like that, it's always ideal to have a fully saturated mineral line as quick as you can. But yeah, like the trade-off is definitely going to put you a little bit behind now because you're I mean, you're prioritizing a nexus a little bit faster, but having an undersaturated main for longer now because of the trade-off is not going to be as efficient. If the nexus was constantly building, you could still get that. You could still get your natural down and then utilize it quick enough to make it, you know, continue making probes and shit. But then your main would actually be fully saturated in the process. It's just yeah, like easy to remember. 20 supply is ideally when you should be taking the nexus and the core. And that should also be when your gateway's finishing too, so it's not like the gateway's been done for a while. So then you would then also build your second gas after the core and nexus, and then you would build your second pylon right after the gas, all while trying to maintain probe production. And then talking about your SimCity really fast. There is a little bit of a mistake here on your wall, and I will say the reason why is because on the right side, if you build like I believe if hold on, I feel like if you build a core, you're gonna have to build it with one down from the gateway, and then you would build a core on the side of that to connect the gateway to the wall. But
oh, I don't actually need the pylon up there. It can be further back.
that's part. Yeah, that's part of it too. I would say honestly, I would say this. This is honestly my opinion. Because I used to do this shit all the time in B2GM, and you were talking about that, and I bet that's probably why you do it too. I've actually kind of stopped doing this, and the reason why is because there's so much vulnerability to your opener if you play against Terrans that are very, very, very oriented with pressure, like tank timings and shit. Which it's just a pain in the ass to deal with this wall if that's what your opponent's gonna do. The only time it's ever really worth it to do walls like this where you can literally just flat out deny the Reaper Scout is when you want to do something that's pressure related. Like you want to go for like a Stargate, for instance, and you want to like do an Oracle opener, and you don't want him to know that, and you want to get damage in there. But if you're going to play something super defensive and standard and macro related, you'd be better off actually which is what you're going to do, I assume, and that's what I actually do all the time myself now. I would just put the pylon closer to your mineral line, like connecting up the pylon to the minerals themselves, and then have the gateway connect the pylon to the wall, so that if the Reaper does walk in your base, you can still fuck it over by the fact that you can cut off one of its exits of your base. So it can't, like if it commits into your mineral line one way, it can't go out the other way. It has to go backwards where it just came from, which means it like runs through your stalker longer, and you'll probably kill it. It's in my opinion, it's unrealistic to like it's just not worth it trying to deny scouting as hard and make your production at a riskier location for like again for things like tank timings when you're not even doing anything pressure related anyways, because you're not going to take advantage of the pro is you have unscouted territory for yourself. Like it's just he can't figure out what's going on. The cons are your placement of your buildings is more risky. And if you're not going to use the pro, it's not worth the con, is what I'm trying to say. And I didn't think about that when I first started doing this, but now that I've experienced Protoss for a lot more throughout this year, I don't like this anymore, unless I'm going to do like a pressure thing.
Okay.
And then also there's a second part of it about it as well, and that is if you build your pylon right next to your mineral line, you lose less mining time because of the run distance. So your probe has to run to build the pylon for all of 1 second, and then it's already mining again. And then if you go build the pylon up here, and then you were to come back and mine, because you're not going to pylon scout, your probe has to run up, build the pylon, and run back, and it takes like 11 seconds of lost mining time. It's like 5 or 6 seconds each way. Plus the process of building the pylon, and then it takes like a second to react and then run back. So it's, yeah, I just don't like this wall anymore, personally. And then, okay, and then another thing too is multiple pylons should definitely be spread out. And this is again why the risky wall, right? Like, what if he shows up with like some type of a tank timing a little bit later with like Liberator, and he just knocks out all your supply pylons, which are also powering your production, which he could do with it from the low ground or whatever. It's just I could see a lot of problems happening with it. But I'll say this: pylons after your first and second pylon, they should be kind of spread out more around your base. For instance, pylon 1 could be next to your main, next to your mineral line, like we talked about, to connect the minerals to the wall. Pylon 2 could actually be like in front of your natural nexus. And the reason why it could be there is because your next production after could actually be in front of your door at your natural. Like almost like it's not making a full wall, but it's reducing the surface area that units can run into your base, like Hellions. And the current meta that we're in right now, you're going to be fighting, I feel like, a fuckload of Hellions and a lot of Widow Mines. Lots of factory starport openers, stuff like that. And they're going to happen, I feel like, a lot because they buffed it in general. And then if you actually put like maybe like let's say your gateways 2 and 3 go down in or maybe like your robo and your gate go down in front of your natural where that pylon would also be for your second pylon, you could actually just have like 1 or 2 stalkers in the door, and suddenly Hellions can't get in your base anymore. Like just driving into your base, and you just shut that down completely, so less probes have a chance to die, which I feel like you're also going to play a lot more now that you're in Diamond. And then like your pylons after this, pylon 3, pylon 4, pylon 5, these pylons could be literally at the edges of your base, at the most like furthest out peninsula location where they could see the open airspace. So if you think about it, like look at like the bottom right of your main, and you see how there's like those little rocks that are like kind of just debris on the side of the cliff?
Yeah.
Okay. If you build a pylon like right around there, maybe like at the bottom of that, where like that little like lip is, where you could see a pylon could probably fit there perfectly, just to the left of the rock, that would be like perfect, because then it gives you a lot of time to react to like a medevac drop that would hit you, like a widow mine drop or something like that. And the more time you have to react to things like this, the better. So the better you can give yourself a net of vision around your base in your first 2 bases, the better, because I don't know how often you fight against it right now, but again, the higher league you go, you're going to fight Terrans that are going to be all about, I need to kill probes, I need to harass his economy, I need to fuck up his economy. Like, it's all they're going to do over and over and over. So having a vision of a net of vision is going to reduce the chances that you let that happen, because you'll see it and you can react to it with stalkers and stuff. So any questions so far about anything, or does everything we're talking about make sense?
No, that makes sense. That's good.
Okay.
Yeah, it's helpful.
All right. Okay. And notice, say this too. Like your probe went to his base. You left your base to go to his base around 15 seconds, right? Or like 20 seconds, because you built the pylon right away with your first probe, and then you headed over to his base, and you're still here with that probe 2 minutes later. So this is what I'm talking about, where this kind of a scout is way too excessive. From going back to the beginning of the lesson we talked about, like all you really want to do is but I know you're still locked in his base, so I understand that concept. Like you're like, well, I can't fucking leave, ViBE. What do you want me to do? I can kill a supply depot. But like by now, I feel like there's a strong sense of, you should hopefully feel like you can read what he's done by now. And the fact that you see, you know, his barracks is done when your gateway is done, and then he's got a gas that's been mining since he started the barracks. It's a very Reaper-y opener. It's like anytime anyone takes a gas and a racks at the same time, it lines it up to where the gas is gonna have mined 50 right when the barracks is done. It's perfect for a Reaper. And then the fact that he made a Reaper on top of that, it reinforces that he's playing more standard. And the fact that he hasn't taken another gas yet, I would say there is a high chance that, even though you can't see it, there is probably going to be a command center going down at his base. There should be. And a perfect way you could figure that out is on this map particularly, if you look at the right side of his right supply depot on the barracks, there's that little, again, that little like peninsula location that you could go to, and you could move your probe right there, and you could actually see the low ground there. And you could see if there was or wasn't a command center being thrown down. You would have enough vision for that. And then if you didn't see one there, you could run around his base again and be like, what are you doing? Because you're locked in. But yeah, I mean, I'll just say it right now. This dude's build, just from what, if you actually spot that command center, which you do actually, if I were you, I'd be like, wow, this guy's so far behind. Like, oh my god, his command center's just going down right now, and my nexus is almost done. It's like 12 seconds from being done. So he's 50-ish seconds behind me. Because, you won't know the exact second that command center is, but you can kind of assume by being like, okay, well, it's pretty early. So, and a nexus and a command center, again, have the same build time. So you just know you're way, 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 way far ahead over him on this regard, too. And I would just feel super fucking good about that. And I feel like the reason why this Terran's behind is, again, because he did something inefficient with the second depot, which delayed his command center. And then he also probably wanted to chase he wanted to really like kill the probe, so he got distracted by the probe, and he's like, get that fucking probe out of here, and just chase your probe and shit like that.
Yeah, that's why I thought I was missing something, because I didn't think I should be ahead, so I was worried I'd missed something else in his base.
Yeah, well, it's definitely a big part of it is because he threw down that second depot. Like, throwing down that second depot that fast, you do not need it that early, and all that did was it tied up. Again, things like this are really important early, and I think a lot of players don't really appreciate how important this is. But him making that second depot that fucking fast to be like, you're locked in, now you can't scout anything, and he's going to play standard. He took, again, like 1 out of like his first 15 SCVs off the mineral line to go tie it up for the build time of a depot is like, what, 20 seconds? I think it's longer than a pylon. It's 21 seconds. So he took an SCV off the mineral line and had it build a depot for 21 seconds, and that not only gave him the cost of the depot for 21 seconds, it took him off the mineral line for 21 seconds. That's fucking huge. That's so much money that he just lost, that he doesn't need to do right now, and he's doing it just because he's trying to fuck with you. And if you just realize that what he's doing is so inefficient, it doesn't matter if he's fucking with you, because his build, even if you play something that's not proper, where it's like, I'm playing greedy, he's playing all in, but he does something inefficient. Even though his style's supposed to beat mine, just because he's being inefficient already rules out the fact that I'm going to lose to it. Because it's inefficient, even though it's the right thing, it's done very inefficiently, so it still doesn't win anymore. And I'm not saying that's only because he built a second depot, but that's the first thing he's done so far this game that is inefficient. And if he does that kind of shit multiple times, he's definitely going to feel like a weak player. You're going to be like, wow, this guy's all in is really like a joke. Like, it's not actually scary. So recognizing stuff like that is important. And the fact that he made that depot is just like, you should just see that and be like, okay, well, all right. This guy definitely doesn't like to make a very good economy. Okay, and then moving forward. So you're definitely ahead right now by a bit. And then this is that moment too where I was saying, ideally, just I would say very, very heavily get in the habit of making a sentry second after that stalker. It's so fucking
Stalker
good.
then sentry.
Yeah, so it's always stalker first, because if he just runs across the map with the Reaper and you have a sentry first, you're gonna lose probes. You will totally lose probes. A sentry cannot chase a Reaper very well. But if you make a stalker first, you can now shut the Reaper down every single time, and then have a sentry second that can then have energy build up to go scout his base with the hallucinated Phoenix, which can get around really fast. And you can also fly over his walls, so you can see everything. And then you go back into making stalkers after the sentry. All right, and then I'm gonna look at your. I want to make sure you're doing the right thing here too. I want to make sure you're chrono boosting your gate. I didn't actually pay attention to that. Yeah, okay, you are good. You need to always do that. 1 chrono in your gateway, perfect. That's just because again, it makes sure your Reaper's gonna, or your Stalker's gonna be out before the Reaper gets there. The only reason why it's not here this game right now is because he delayed running across the map to go kill your probe, and he kind of like didn't send it right away. But if he just rallies that Reaper the second it's done out of the barracks to your base, you definitely need to chrono boost that Stalker for it to be out in time to guard your probes. So I like that you're doing that. It's good. And then right about now is when you should be so also you don't need to make pylon 3 before you make your tech, because the nexus itself is going to give you a shitload of supply, and the second pylon is going to cover you up until the second nexus is done. So on pylon 2 you should be starting more probes. Obviously you make your sentry and your second stalker, and then you make, as soon as you have enough gas for it, you pair your robo and your gate. I assume you go robo, right? I'm not wrong on that?
Yes, I think I do robo.
Okay, so yeah, you would make your robo and your second gate before your third pylon. Because all that's going to do then, if you do your third pylon so early, like you can see your supply is massively a supply cushion right now. It's just going to delay. It's kind of the same thing as him going for a second depot early. But it's not as critical because you did it later. Like every time you do something inefficiently, that's a little bit later in the game, it's a little less damaging to you because you have more economy to recover with faster. But you are losing a little bit of your tech time though. So like now all of your your Colossus, your Disruptor, whatever you're going to go for is going to be delayed. Your Observer, all these things, and your tech path to go towards Robo Bay is going to be delayed. So always make your tech off of pylon 2, and then as soon as you make your tech and you have that expense down, then you go pylon 3. And again, like I was saying before, pylon 1 and pylon 2 should be close to both the nexuses. The first pylon is close to the first nexus. Second pylon, maybe put it in front of your second nexus a little bit to go to that wall in front of your natural. And then you make your first production on your first pylon, and then as soon as you're ready to make the robo and the gate again on the second pylon, you do it at the second pylon. But then pylons like 3, 4, 5, literally just have them go around the edge of your base, like one above the top left of your natural, one in the top right of your main to give you the vision of that the dark spot in the top right, like the middle of the top right, like kind of like straight right from your nexus on that one little lip where it kind of goes horizontal. And then same thing with the bottom one. Directly south of that would be the bottom right pylon. So you could, again, the whole dark spot on the right side of your base would be covered. So you would not be surprised by a medevac coming in your base or something like that. And then if you have that for your next 3 pylons, so you'd be up to 5 pylons now. 5 pylons is going to be like enough to really have a fully saturated natural. You have a decently sized army, probably like 6 to 8 stalkers and like a sentry. And maybe you're starting a Colossus, and then that's when you could be like, okay, I'm ready to start my next pylon and my next nexus at like my 3rd base. And they would just give you, again, that net of vision is so, I can't stress how important that is. It is so fucking important. Because it it creates just like a, it's just extra time that you have to react to things that could be game ending. And if you ever let a mineral line drop happen and you don't react to it, and it's suddenly Hellions get in your mineral line or Widow Mines get in your mineral line, and you didn't react to it in like the 1 second you had because you're only doing it off of the assimilator's vision, then you're like, oh shit, well I just lost 12 probes, I lost 15 probes. That could totally happen. And if that does happen, that is a game losing circumstance. So obviously wanting to avoid that at all costs is that's a given. Every Protoss knows this, but making sure you give yourself as much advantage as you can by having vision is the way you can avoid that the most. And then at this stage too, I would say double chronoing your Nexus again would be ideal. Just spam out chronos on your Nexus repeatedly until your Robo Bay is done. Okay, I'm gonna pause it, and I'm gonna look at your build for a second. I'm not the biggest fan of what's happening right now.
So everything should be on the Nexus except one on the gateway.
Yeah, for now, so far, yes, for Chrono Boost. Because you want to hit that ideal saturation as fast as possible on your natural as well. That is what's important right now, for sure. And then just stockpiling chrono energy isn't doing anything for you. It's not like you're going to be going for like because again, you're playing macro. The reason why is you have to think about your game plan. And for Protoss, the way you spend your chrono boost is really important with your game plan. And what's your game plan? It's probably going to be to go to a 3rd base, to get higher supply, to be defensive, guard yourself, and then when you're ready to do a timing, when you feel like you have this ballin' fucking army, then go kill him. That's most likely going to be what your plan is. That's most of the time what a robo opener entails for Protoss against Terran, unless it's like a proxied robo, but well, obviously you're not proxying it. So your plan is basically to build up an army as fast as you can, and to do that, you definitely want to be prioritizing your chronos on your Nexus for now, because there's nothing more important to take the part yet, because you don't need to chrono boost out like 5 observers or something like that right now. You don't need to chrono boost out extra stalkers right now, because you already have realized you're not getting all in, and if he's not all inning you because he has a natural, you getting the first stalker out's nice to deal with the Reaper because you guard your probes that way, but now just gradually making units out of your gateways and inevitably warp gates eventually, you can make an army that is going to be able to combat his if he were to pressure you, because again, it's going to be a harassment, it's not going to be an all-in because he expanded. So it would be something like 4 Hellions or 4 Widow Mines or something like that. It's going to be a very tiny army. It's going to be mostly designed to kill your probes again. So if you think about it that way too, if you actually do take a little bit of probe damage and you are chronoing probes, you can recover faster because you have more probes to work with. So again, your goal is definitely to maximize your minerals as fast as you can, so you can mitigate damage you take if it does happen, because you can recover, you can bounce back quicker, and you can also do things like take your 3rd base faster, which is inevitably going to be your goal because you're playing a defensive macro game. But I would say you can start allocating chronos to your to your robo just for a little bit, maybe like 3 chronos into your robo once your robo bay is done, so that you can then chrono out Colossus, and you do it 1 by 1 by 1 because you only have 1 robo. And you can get out like 2 Colossus pretty fast. That way, if he does do any type of like a weird bio push to you or something like that, you have Colossus quick to deal with this. Now, talking about your build, I think your Council and your Forge are way too early, and you're also doing this before your Robo Bay. And you're also making a 3rd gate. I don't necessarily think you need to make a 3rd gate yet. because it's just going to be kind of an excessive amount of production at this point in the time. Like it's you want to make your extra gates, I would say, maybe once you already have the cost of your third base being thrown down, that's a good time to throw down more gates because you can actually afford it while still making probes and army at the same time. Right now, making your gateway this early, if you start cranking out units out of your robo and 3 gateways, it's going to be really hard to afford a third base, is what I'm trying to say, at this point in time, which is going to stifle your economy in the future. And then you're also starting a forge and a council right now, which is really early, and it, like I said before, it's at the cost of your robo bay. Your robo bay should definitely be the priority if you're going to go robo first, because that way you can actually have AoE in your army early, like a Colossus that can deal with lots of different harassment potential pushes that can hit you. Going for a council and a forge right now, if you're going to take them this early, it would make more sense to just open with them. If your plan was to get really fast charge or really fast blink, and then going for robo after for observers after. But again, I don't like that style as much now. I prefer the robo first and then a robo bay, because again, they buffed Terran Widow Mines and that kind of style. So going Twilight Council first is actually weaker and more susceptible to those styles of Terran. You're gonna have more problems if you go Twilight Council first. I think if you go Robo first, you will shut down the average meta of Terran more often, which is usually going to be 1/1/1 medevac drops with some type of factory pressure.
And should I take the council and the forge before my third base, or should I wait till afterwards?
After. You should be taking the council and the forge around the same time you take your extra gates, which should be after you've already thrown a third down. Like, you'd be throwing a third down already, like right now. And you should be scouting him as well. Not with the observer. You should definitely leave this observer defensive. Because if this guy opens up with an armory and he goes Widow Mines, they're permanently cloaked. That's the buff that got changed in the recent patch. You don't have to get drilling claws anymore to have permanently cloaked Widow Mines. You just need to have an armory. And then they're always cloaked when you burrow them. So if he landed a medevac drop in your mineral line and he burrowed it and you don't have an observer, you could maybe not get blown up by it, because you'd be like, oh, run the probes away, I reacted to it. But you could physically not have them get set off and then go back to mine until you can physically kill them, because they're going to be cloaked forever until you get rid of them. So you definitely need an observer defensively. Otherwise it's going to be fucking annoying. And then not being able to mine your mineral line for, like, let's just say you have to then build an observer, and let's just say worst case scenario, you don't even have a chrono boost ready to go, and you're like, because I've been chronoing probes and now I don't have an observer to make a chrono boosted observer, because my first observer is all the way across the map. You gotta wait for 21 seconds until you can really, like, go back to mine that mineral line, unless you want to sack probes and then hopefully not get blown up before the observer pops on the second round of Widow Mine shots. You know what I mean? Like, it just fucks your build up if the Terran plays that way. So that's why I'm very big advocator on saying, not only is a Hallucinating Phoenix better than an observer to scout, because the observer should be defensive to kill Widow Mine drops if they happen, and also Banshees, but the Hallucinated Phoenix is faster than an observer by quite a bit. It's like double the speed almost. So you can actually get around the map faster, way fucking faster than an observer can. And if you make Sentry second, you will have a Hallucinated Phoenix access to it faster than you can make an observer. Like, your Sentry will be ready to pop out a Hallucinated Phoenix while your Robo is under construction. So you'll have a faster scout too, to figure out, am I getting all in? Am I not getting all in off of 2 bases? Is this guy doing like a tank timing? Is he doing a Widow Mine drop? Does he already have a starport? Like, there's a lot of things you can read off that scout if you do it off of the Sentry. Yeah, you're definitely putting yourself into this, like, 2 base territory way too hard, because you're building so much shit on 2 bases, and you're building cannons. This is extreme. And again, you can see the probe is to go for a third. Your goal is to get a 3rd base, but you're delaying yourself so hard in so many ways. So, like, you threw your 3rd down at like 5:20-ish, 5:19 exactly. You could have thrown your 3rd down, I'm not even kidding, at like 4 minutes. Which would mean it would already be done by now. And you would already have triple chrono boosted probes, or just not even Chrono Boost at this point, just triple probe production being thrown down on the third base. And then also, I feel like you've cut probes as well quite a bit, because your natural, I feel like, is saturating a bit late. So, just like, we're going to keep going with this replay, but just to throw it out there, I think what we can do is we're going to go through this a little bit quicker now, because, again, the thing I always tell people is the first 6 minutes of an actual build is very critical. It's very, like, indicative of if it is a good or if it is a bad build. And right now, your build started off okay, and it's kind of like gone down and down and down a bit by bit since the start. And now I would say your build is definitely inefficient. But I'll make you a build after this is over. That'll, like, it's something you can use as a reference where it's like, okay, well, I'll just do this, and suddenly I'll have a lot more. Because if for instance, if you were to say something like, well, ViBE, I'm struggling against Terran for whatever reason, and I see what I'm seeing right now, I would say it doesn't matter what units you said, your build is so much more inefficient than it could be. And if you just had an efficient build, all those things where you say you struggle against whatever it is would go away. Even if you make wrong units. Even if you made, like, Stalker Colossus against someone who goes Thors, which is fucking awful for Stalker Colossus, you would still win because you would have a better build than they do. Like, this guy's build is not efficient either. He went for triple factory. He went for an engineering bay, and he went for like the second depot early, super delayed natural, and he's starting his third command center now as well. He still also wants to go for a third CC. You both are doing the same thing though. You're both like hyper fucking focusing on 2 base play, and then you're getting a super delayed third. Which if either one of you played for a standard build where it has like a well-timed third, you would crush the other player. You would just have so much more supply and so much more money, because you both are doing things where you're actually staying close to each other in everything, because you're both playing inefficient at this point now. And this guy's even doing a gas emphasis. He has like 6 SCVs on the mineral line, and he's got 6 probes on the gas at his natural already. That's so fucking expensive on his economy. And he doesn't even have a fully saturated main because he's ripping off to build buildings. Like, his mineral income sucks ass. Like, look if you hit I on the keyboard to look at income tab, look at the Terran's income, even though he has mules. That is pathetic. This guy's build is actually awful. It's more awful than yours. This is
what I thought was weird, because I saw that from the observer and I thought, I think I'm ahead, like, economically, so I was worried that I'd either missed something and, like, I was being too aggressive on, like, taking a third.
No, don't ever feel like that. You have to realize this. The fact that he's invested into the natural means that you're fine. Like, you're not the guy can't afford like a legit all-in if he takes a natural. It's impossible. Because you can't just build a nexus and then suddenly also have proxied robo gates and be like, oh, I'm just doing it anyways and I'm going to fuck you up with that timer. Because the reason why is because if you do, it's again the same thing I talked about with efficiency earlier. If you do something that could be correct but is done inefficiently, it doesn't matter, it still will fail if your opponent knows how to play efficiently. So if this guy would have gone for an efficient 3 command center build, okay, and you would have gone for nexus first, and then you're like, well, you know what? It's just a joke. Like it's a distraction. It's misdirection. I'm actually robo proxying you with an all-in right now, and I'm gonna robo, like a build Chrono immortals out of my robo that's proxied and warp and stalkers over there. Your timing would hit so late because you built the nexus that even though your opponent could go for triple command center, and you should kill him ideally with that, because you went for the nexus, your window of time that you're gonna hit him now is so much later that he could still defend it. That is how StarCraft just works. Because there's windows of time that you need to take advantage of if you're going to play really aggressive, and if your opponent doesn't do that, you don't have to even worry about shit. You're just like, well, he's just playing really inefficient now. And that literally means he'll just die. Which is the exact reason why, if you have players that are, like, you know, that play inefficiently, that are lower league, versus players that play efficiently and are higher league, even though the lower league player's like, I'm just going to fucking all in. That's all I'm going to do. But they do it really inefficiently. The higher league player could be doing something really greedy and still not die. Because they're like, well, you just did shit in a weird way, in a weird order. Which is, you know, kind of exactly what you both are doing. You guys are both doing excessive amounts of production on 2 bases, but you're both actually going for third base. Like, he should be 2 factory third base. You should be 2 gateway robo third base. But he went engineering bay armory, triple factory, which I think the engineering bay armory is not that bad of an idea, because that's what I advocate as well for Terran. Because if you don't know how to scout as Terran, and you're like, I make tanks and die, I need turrets, like that's okay. And then you need the armory to make Thors and shit. That's fine. But the third factory cost is definitely excessive, and he's getting like blue flame with this early. That's just not necessary, because he's not even Hellion harassing you. He doesn't even have a single Hellion at all yet. It's just a bit much. This build is definitely, it's like he's making expenses that he doesn't need. And your extra expenses are definitely your council, your forge, your cannons, and your extra 2 gates. And if both of you deleted your extra costs and you just made that third faster, and then you added things like that later, you'd be way better off. Like now this guy's making turrets around his base and stuff. Like he actually might kill your observer though, surprisingly. But yeah. I just want to make you a build that's going to be something you can just do that'll be efficient for you. Because again, like now the battery cannon at your natural, these kinds of things are things that if you do them and you make habits out of doing this, you will be stuck in diamond for life.
Okay, that's helpful, yeah. I was kind of too cautious there. I'm just like scared of those widow mine drops behind the mineral line.
And that's why I was saying earlier, if if you make a your pylon net, that going back to that concept, if you just have vision, that should be what you defend yourself with, is vision. Because think about it like this: if you're making army and you have an army to use yourself to defend yourself, that is very capable of doing so. That needs, it's multi-purpose, because that army is going to defend all your base. It can roam everywhere. But now, even though you have army, the fact that you're also now relying on cannons, all that does is reinforce laziness, because now you can make a mistake and be like, well, I didn't realize I was getting dropped, and I didn't know that, and then I didn't use my army. But the cannons covered it. We're fine. Cannons got it. I mean, that reinforces you to be lazy as a player. But also what it does is, versus somebody who would play efficient, it reinforces that you're going to play slower because you're turtling harder. You're putting costs into static D, which give you less map control, because you're doing things like taking a third base slower. And if your opponent just took a third base faster and then maybe took like a fourth base faster, you will be on defense all game because of shit like this, and you will eventually die because of that. Because your opponent will just have more money than you if they actually invest into money and rely on their army more that they're going to make with their workers, rather than making static D on top of that. It's just, it's like you're basically, you're like super reinforcing multiple things for the same job. Like stalkers can deal with widow mines and hellions and drops and stuff like that, but now you're also making cannons do it too. And I don't think that making cannons is a bad idea later on when you can actually afford it, but it's way too early for it. Because you should start making static D when you start actually roaming the map. And if you're out of position then, when you're like in the middle of the map and you're like, oh fuck, a widow mine drop, or the Liberator or a Banshee or whatever. Now you have cannons that can help deal with that shit later on. And that's also when you have ideally like 70 plus probes. That if you make a couple cannons, it literally does nothing to your economy because you're still like maxing out really fast. But making cannons and shit and batteries when you only have like 40 probes, that's huge. And before you have a third base, like those things are huge. It's just, it delays everything for you at your build up. And you still don't have a Robo Bay. So you are making Immortal. I would say also get out of the habit of making Immortals now that you're in Diamond. Immortals aren't bad units, but I would highly recommend, if you're going to go for fast third bases,
and just make Colossus versus Terran.
Exactly. Prioritize more on Robo Bay units than Immortal. They're better. They're better for what you're trying to do, which is play greedy. Yeah, there's definitely...
Yeah, this is why I kind of thought this game was weird, because I was going Charge Lot, Immortal, Archon, and I thought it was ahead economically, but then ended up against this Thor Hellbat composition, and I just couldn't get past it.
Yeah, and that's also why it's a big deal too. Like, if you scouted his base early on with the Observer, and you see double Tech Lab Factory like that, you should automatically know, oh, okay, yeah, it's mech. It is totally mech. And if you ever know it's mech, always in the back of your mind, think that Zealots are kind of shitty. Zealots only have one purpose against mech, and it's the remax, not the initial max. And here's why. If you make a bunch of zealots against somebody who's also making a bunch of hellbats, zealots are going to take a horrible fight. They're going to just die. But if you make a lot of stalkers first or something else out of your gateway, and then support that gateway unit with something else like disruptors or whatever, if you take a fight against mech and you wipe out the hellbats, and then you remax zealots with your open supply, because you're both going to take losses, and now all the hellbats are dead, and now all that's left is Thors, or maybe a couple tanks with Thor, something like that, suddenly zealots are way better. Because blue flame cleaving hellbats that do bonus damage to light, which is what a zealot is, your zealots run in and just evaporate in seconds against a bunch of blue flame hellions. Or blue flame hellbats. So yeah, it's just you're kind of...
that's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
the zealots just get ripped apart, and then there was nothing really left.
You're kind of... Yeah, exactly. You're just kind of counter-comping yourself compositionally when you make zealots versus hellbats. It's definitely something you want to make. You'd only ever want to make zealots as a run-by tactic. If you're like, well, I'm going to go hit that base at the same time, I'm going to fight his army over here. Zealots would be great then, because they'll just wipe out a bunch of SCVs in a command center. Or again, if you kill all the hellbats and then you remax then zealots, then that'd be good too.
Yeah, that actually happens in a bit. I try and sort of double prong him, but I still lose the main fight against the mech.
And part of my guess as to why that's going to happen is because you're behind in supply, which also shouldn't be happening. If he's going, like, again, the main reason why it shouldn't be happening is because your build's super inefficient. So is his. So both of you are playing inefficiently, but, like, I will say you are making so many gateways, and then you are not utilizing the amount of gateways that you're making. Because think about it like this. You made 4 gates, okay? You made 4 gateways. By, like, you made the first 2 gates really early, which I think is okay. But you made up to 4, like, you made your 3rd gate at, like, 3 minutes. And you made your 4th gate at, like, 4 minutes. So since 4 minutes, you've had access to 4 gate production. And think about this. You can make roughly about 3 units a minute out of the gateway. And since 4 minutes, if you have 4 gates since 4 minutes, and we'll just go off that. We're not even going to go off what you had before that, even though that's more units you could have made up to 4 minutes. We'll just go from 4 minutes with 4 gates, and we'll say the starting point is 0. At 4 minutes, you could make 3 units per gateway. And so far, since 4 minutes in this game, almost we'll let it go to 9 minutes, and we'll say 5 minutes has gone by. Okay, so like right now, that's 12 units a minute, which is 60 units you could have made off of 4 gates if you really maximized it for 5 minutes. And think about how many gateway units do we actually have. We have 4 stalkers, we have 3 Templar, we have 2 sentry, we have 7 zealots and 3 archons, so that's 7 plus 6 for the archon and zealot, that's 13, plus 4, which is 17 for the stalker, plus 2, which is now 19 for the sentry, plus 3, which is 22 for the Templar. So you've made 22 out of 60. So what I'm trying to say is, and that's just for 4 gates. You actually right now have fucking 11 gateways, which is huge. Like what I'm trying to say is you're missing so much production because you are ramping up your gateway count so fast, and you're not actually building units.
I should be maxed by 10 minutes, right?
Yeah, ideally. Your build is just inefficient. It's long story short, inefficient build, and I want to make you one that's gonna fix this for you. Because it's just too much production, not enough money, and not enough uptime of production that you already have. It's like instead of like maintaining like 3 gateways constantly, you make like 9 gateways and make a round of units once every time you could make 3 rounds of 3 gateways. But there's all this extra added gateway costs, so you're actually behind. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay, because I mean that's why your money's spent. It's just you have a bunch of extra production building costs, but you're still actually producing the same rate as what you would if you had less production buildings. Alright, we can definitely speed it up a bit now, because I think we've already kind of really solidified the fact that we'll just make you a new build, because your build it could be definitely improved. And we'll talk about your strategy army movements. But just keep in mind, this is going to look very hard for you, because you should have way more supply than you do. So like everything's kind of skewed now, where it like this game is now like a GM requiring skill level here, instead of like a diamond level or a platinum level. Like you would have to play really fucking good now to come out of a situation that is negative that you've put yourself in just because of the inefficiencies of the build. Okay, that Zealot run by was fine. You went for a mineral line. That's not bad at all. You killed a couple Thors. That was a good attack. He kills your thingy. You go for a multi-prong. You kill his planetary. Tactically, that was good. You should definitely not fight him right now, though. The reason why is because you just gave yourself the advantage, and now you have the potential to throw it away. Think about it like this. You're on 5 bases right now, soon to be. You're currently on 4, but you're making your 5th. You've just confirmed that the Terran player was on 4 bases as well. So you're both 4 base versus 4 base, but you're soon to be 5 base. However, you just killed a fuckload of SCVs at his 4th base, his planetary in the bottom right, or middle right, and you just wiped out all his SCVs in his main. You confirmed there's no workers there. So you have successfully, for a brief moment, put him on 2 base economy. And then he'll probably, he didn't kill all the SCVs in his main, he transferred around and shit like that. But the point is you've stifled his economy very hard. So if you back off right now, before you max out, which would be the correct thing to do, you give yourself time where you're ahead now, where you just created an advantage for yourself, and now if you just create time with that, you can expand your lead that you have. However, if you take a fight against him, you don't have any seconds to really have a lead here, and you actually have a negative if you think about it like this. You just sacrificed zealots to kill workers in the main. All your zealots died, and your prism died. He killed that shit because he lost workers and sent an army to go kill it. You did not send your whole army in the main. You just sent a harass force, which did a good job at harassing, but you lost more units than he did in that process. Now, you also lost units to kill the planetary. So now if you just take a fight right after this, you have 2 negatives in army versus army where you just sacrifice units in multiple ways to fuck his economy up. But if you backed off, the economy thing is replacing economy that dies it takes longer than replacing army that dies. So the advantage here would be for you to back up, not to attack, because you just threw away army to do damage to his economy. And now if you just take an army versus army fight, when you have an army deficit, you're going to take, most likely, chances are you're going to take a bad fight now. Does that make sense? Like it's...
Yeah, so I should back out of this, remax, because now I'm 4 bases versus 2, and then come back at 200 supply.
Exactly. Like it's because you sacrifice army to kill economy, and now if you just take an army versus army fight after sacrificing army to do this previous part of that, you're going to take a worse fight than you could have. Guaranteed. Because again, every second that goes by is in your advantage now because he doesn't have the economy to match you anymore. And you get fucking rolled. And now your advantage just got thrown away. Because the fact that you just lost your army makes it really easy for him to now re-expand. And you now have to recover what you just lost. Which, still, rebuilding army is faster than rebuilding economy. But now, the time it will take you, because you just threw your whole army away, the time it'll take you now to remax gives your opponent now a lot of time to recover himself to where he could actually have a good chance of defending your next attack. But you see how you're actually, before you were behind him in supply and now you're ahead of him in supply? That is what I'm talking about when I also say recovering an army is faster than recovering an economy. That's why you should max, like theoretically you should max faster than he does. But you should actually be crippling him over and over and over and then maximizing your advantages. And because you threw everything away, you're actually giving him a real chance. Even though you're maxing first, he's right behind you. So this fight should look very formidable for him. It should not be something where you just steamroll him. So again, the best course of action for you right now with your current composition of zealot heavy would once again be just what you did before. Fuck his economy up. Throw away your zealots that way. Make something better than zealots in a real fight and go from there. Because if you just let him max out and you max out and you take a fight army versus army, zealots versus him, that is and once again, an inefficient way to go about doing it, because Zealots suck balls against Hellbat-based mech. So now you're fighting against the planetary. This is a scary fight for you. So
For replay analysis.
yo, Phalanx, thank you very much, man. I'll check it out in a little bit. Much love, dude. Just drop it in the folder and I'll open it in a few minutes. So you're fighting the planetary, and this is before you scouted anything. And you're just kind of going into his base, right? You're just kind of winging it. You're like, ah, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. And you're engaging a planetary, so half of your army is engaged on the planetary, and half of your army is engaged on his army itself. And your army just bled out in seconds from the Hellbats. With any Zealots that would have gone to the Hellbat side, they're all just dead. And now you just have a few Zealots left on the planetary that are getting stuck by a repaired planetary.
Yeah, this fight was a mess.
Yeah. So now you've definitely lost all advantages, and now because you've just threw your army away again. And if you think about it like this, if you would have backed off after you put him on 2 bases, and you would have come back and fought him when you maxed after backing off after you fucked his economy up, you would have maxed when the Terran would have only had like 150 supply. For sure. Like, he would have been a lot lower than you in supply because you just fucked him up really bad. And it would have taken him long. He would have had to recover the economy while then also trying to recover army, little bits and pieces of it. But the majority of his army was still there. But you could have maxed then after really fast, and if you would have hit him here when he's not 200 supply, but he's only 150 supply, you would have had a window where you probably could have then also overpowered a planetary and his army at the same time. But again, you're making Zealots, which I don't want to just say that what you did here was correct. It was really bad because you're making Zealots and you're going for a big fucking fight against Hellbats with Zealots, which is never what you want to do against mech. Yo, Jason, thank you very much for the raid as well, dude. What's up, guys? We're doing a coaching lesson, but welcome everybody. Hello, hello. And then now, you made like another round of Zealots, and you attacked his base again. And now I just see you, like the game is over now, for sure. Because this is too many times, and you have Zealots on the top side again going.
Yeah, this is the end.
Yeah,
I mean, this is great because I honestly thought I lost late game because of composition, but like going through it again now, it's the build in the beginning. I should have been like way further ahead.
Yeah, and you're doing something too. It's like conceptually, think about it like this: you went for economy. The whole concept of like you killed his economy, that was good. The first time you did it, that was good. And then you should have backed off, but you didn't. You took a fight when you were like down a little bit, like you were like injured yourself because you threw away your army to kill his economy, and now you just took a fight. It's like getting like if you were like, I'm going to give you an analogy, but it doesn't really matter. I think you get the point. You weren't at full power there. And then now you've gone back, and then you went into like a full army versus army fight afterwards. After you threw your whole army away, when you remaxed, you just went army versus army, which is not in your favor because you made Zealots again, which should have been designed for economy killing. But you took a big army fight. That's why you got destroyed in that last fight. And then now you've gone, after you took a massive negative fight, you've gone back into going for economy. You just made a round of Zealots for the South PF, and you made another round of Zealots for the North PF. And this is going to guarantee you lose because now it's confirming, or it's guaranteeing you have 0 army to defend his counter all-in with it against you. You just die now. So it's like a guaranteed death here. And I imagine the only reason why you're doing this is because you're like, I hope he turns around, and he just gets really nervous, and I get time to remax because I'm dead otherwise. And that's a fair call. Like you're most likely gonna die.
It would have been nice if he turned around. I was trying to do a transition to Sky Tusk, but at this point, yeah, it was just way too late.
Yeah. That's why I'm also saying, dude, if you against this composition, I'm gonna say the best unit you could make if you get good at it is a disruptor. Disruptors are fucking nuts against mech. It's just stupid. It's so good because you can actually have 3 disruptors can kill a Thor, 2 disruptors kill a tank, 1 disruptor kills a Hellbat, and you can actually move underneath the units with them. So you could blow up like 4 or 5 Thors at a time with disruptor shots. And if you have like 8 disruptors or something, or like 9 disruptors, you could just be like 3 shots, 3 shots, 3 shots, like every like 5 to 10 seconds. And you just blow up packs of his Thors, because here's another thing. Thors are slow as fuck, and they can't really dodge disruptor shots. And also, the lower league you go, like you're in Diamond now, so, and congrats again on that. if you throw disruptors at diamond Terrans and they go Thorbat or Thor Hellbat, they're not going to be splitting like gods either. They're going to probably eat that shit to the face over and over and over. So it's going to definitely be in your favor to... I would highly recommend using disruptors against mech and using Colossus against bio. That would be my recommendation for you for sure.
Oh, okay, that's cool. So even using disruptors against mech, it's gonna be micro, but it's gonna be less micro intensive for me than him trying to get out of the way and you can't get the Thors out of the way.
Yeah, it's good. It's super easy micro. It's literally you just sit back. Just sit back. Don't engage him. Just sit back. And as he engages you, disruptor shots. Okay, throw some more out. Okay, throw some more out. And then you just watch him walk into explosions repeatedly. And then you're like, okay, well, if I need to take the fight now, I can. Otherwise, how about I just wait longer until I get my next round of disruptor shots, and I'll just do it again. Like if you're defending your base, obviously you probably want to take the fight. But if you're in the middle of the map, you could just back up because Thor Hellbat is slow as fuck. So you could dictate where the fight happens a lot versus Thor Hellbat. But yeah, you're definitely dead now. And then and because like going carriers for instance against Thors is kind of scary, which is why I'm saying I feel like disruptors would be a better choice, because if he has a lot of Thor and he's got good upgrades and he's like maxed out and he has high impact payload on, he can wreck carriers pretty hard. If you have nothing that's going to break the Thor count down at all. Like it's much harder for you to do that properly than it is for him, is what I'm saying. But disruptors are the opposite. It's way harder for him to deal with disruptors than it is for you to kill him with disruptors. So anyways, I'm going to leave the replay and I'm going to make you the build really fast of what I think your build could be efficiently. And I could make you a... Would you rather me make you a anti-bio or an anti-mech build? What would you prefer? Because they're like, the only difference would be like one of them is going to be probably...
I think anti-bio, I mean, I don't see mech that much, okay. So something against bio would be great, yeah.
Okay,
awesome,
so
thank you.
This, I'm going to go ahead and accept the invite. I just sent you an invite really quick. There you go. So this will be the best way you can do this then. The only thing you should replace about this build, if you play against mech, do the exact same thing, except for there's going to be two differences, okay? There's two alterations from if it is mech, but if it's bio, just do exactly what I do. If it's mech, don't get armor upgrades. Just pointless against mech, honestly. You can get more units out faster otherwise. And don't make Colossus, instead make Disruptor. Everything else is exactly the same. Does that make sense? So you're only use one Forge and make Disruptors against mech. If it's bio, just do exactly what I do here.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
Okay. So even if you already have two Forges, just don't use a second Forge. If you realize, oh shit, it's mech, just be like, alright, well, I just won't use the second Forge then. Because armor doesn't do shit for you against mech. It really doesn't. Alright, then I'll take you to max with this build, and then we'll be good. And Impri keeps asking, ViBE, put the replay in Discord, please. I already put the exact same build.
That's awesome, dude. I appreciate it. That's super helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Dude, I fucking got you, bro. It's all good. I hope this, this will be definitely like a nice quota for you to go for. And Impri, I already put the exact same replay I'm making. This is the same build that you already have. I know you already have it from the previous thingy. Okay, sorry. I put my pylon in a shitty spot. God damn it, Impri. You're ruining my life here. Yeah, the pylon should have been honestly against the mineral line. My bad. We'll just pretend it was. Every other pylon will be good.
It's all good.
Okay, and then... Okay, so we're going to now be throwing down our nexus at 20. And then you can scout, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then we'll throw down our core right after. So at 20, you just to make the core as quick as you can, you will cut a probe for a sec, and then you'll go right back into making probes. And now you'll just make probes forever. So 20 should be the number you should be aiming for Nexus and core. And then we can make our next pylon as well with the gas first, while still making probes. And make our second pylon over here. So third pylon.
Nexus, core, and 20 probes by like 1 minute 40.
Yeah. Yep. And now we can re-rally to our natural. And pylon number 1 and 2 will be in the main. Pylon 3 will be in front of your natural. And pylon 4, 5, 6, whatever, will be around the edges of your base. So I actually told you pylon 2 should be in front of your natural. It's actually pylon 3, sorry. That's why I'm glad I'm making you the build, because I said the wrong thing. But pylon 3 should be the one in front of your nexus at your natural. And I'll give you an example of how it should look. And we honestly could throw it down like right around now when the nexus is like finishing, because we're going to be chrono boosting probes like crazy now. And then we started our sentry right after the stalker. And we're going to be making a robo and a gate now in front of this base, kind of like this. Dun, 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 dun. And now, again, you don't have to make a full wall like you would against like Zerg. You just want to limit surface area, so you make it harder for him to get into your base. If he does do like a Hellion run by or something like that. And then go right back into making stalkers again. And then we can take our gas right around like 12 to 14 probes on the natural. Anywhere around there would be great. Keep chrono boosting your probes. And I remember how at 4 minutes I was saying that's when you should be ideally throwing down your expansion. So we're going to get ready to do that in just a second. And we can go to our... and we have a robo bait already started too. So we're going to go ahead and head down to our third base. And we're going to throw down our nexus. And we're going to throw down like a pylon next to it. And then go back to our natural. And now we're going to make a couple more pylons. And we're going to make them around the edges of our base so that we can see Widowmine drops. Meanwhile, we're... you know, we're going into... we can chrono boost probes one more time. And we're just going into like stalkers. We're going into Colossus in a second. Super standard.
Cool, and no Forge or Twilight Council before that.
Yeah, not yet. Yep. You'll make them like when the third's already done, because you can't afford it right now. We're making, see how we're like our money's like stretched super thin. We're like barely able to afford everything we have anyways. So once we have third income actually coming into our base, that's when we would add on the cost of more. Then we can make another pylon like right there. So now all of our main and natural is like fully covered, and if we did get dropped by a Widowmine, we have stalkers and observers to cover that shit. And you could even do like, for instance, like a observer could go to like one side of your base and go in oversight mode and just sit there just so you can see drops coming from even further away.
Would you leave some stalkers at your mineral line or leave them at the front of your base?
Leave them at the front of your base. Because that's why you have the net of vision. You'll see it coming from like there, not there. So you have the ability to run there before it gets there easily if a drop does come. And if that's a problem for you, that's something you need to work on. If you're like, well, I just never noticed the minimap, well, that's something you have to definitely start doing to be able to get out of Diamond League. So this will increase like your awareness of the map, basically. You'll start paying attention more. And now that we have a well-saturated third, now we're going to go in our main. Now we're going to add in Double Forge, Council, and like 2 more gates. And we can chrono boost out Colossus still. Throw a couple more chronos at that. And now we could even do something like grab a probe and send it to our 4th base. Literally. Because again, we're playing a defensive style. We're playing a reactionary macro style. And we're making another Colossus. Now we'll just save for a Nexus because we just burned all of our production. Now we're going to make a 4th Nexus and we can start upgrades as well in the main. And we can start, now that we're doing upgrades too, let's start divvying all of our chrono boosts to that, because we've got a couple Colossus. We're good on that. The ideal Colossus count you want to go to is like 4, but now let's just spend all of our chrono boost energy on upgrades instead, because it's the most important thing at this point now. Because we have a good amount of stalkers. And we're going to start making zealots too. We want to go up to like 10 stalkers as well. And now we'll just start making zealots and chronoing upgrades and still make probes to saturate the 4th. Because we're still not at like 80 yet. Then we can make also, now that we're making zealots too, our gas is going to get a little crazy. Because we're doing a pure mineral expense. So we can start doing things like making a Templar Archives to get ready to go into Storm and Templar. Or you don't even need to get Storm yet, honestly. I would say you can just go for Archons. Storm, maybe use Storm once you're like really comfortable with this build. Grab our probes, make sure we're saturating properly. So we're already at 72 probes, and then we're just making zealots, etc., etc., etc. And our army can kind of be centralized, so we can defend all of our bases. Like the shortest possible distance to go to any base if we get attacked at any base. So we don't want to be all the way into our fucking 3rd if we get dropped in our main. We don't want to be all the way in our main if our 3rd gets hit, etc., etc., etc. You want to have the ability to defend any base at any time. Like the shortest distance to go to any base. So locating your army in the centralized location is important.
Awesome. And you're also hitting 80 probes at, what, 7 minutes 45 about?
We're almost at 80 probes. Like if you hit between 7:45 to 8 minutes, that's great. That's super good on 80. That is baller if you can do that.
Awesome.
And then now we have 4 Colossus, so we'll go back into making observers again. And we're going 2/2 upgrades with now charge on our forges. And we're still chrono boosting them. That's all we're doing is chrono boosting the whatever they're called, the forges and shit. And now we can add in some more gates again. Let's add in like 4 more gates now, because now the cost of probes is done. It's done. We're at 80. We're great. We're good to go. But we're starting to mine out in the main too. So now we have 12 gates. We have a robo, and we made a couple of observers. So you know we have good coverage of that. But we're gonna go into we're gonna go like 12 gates, and we're just gonna start making, you know, extra production faster now, because we can actually afford it. And we're about to max pretty soon here. And we can start grabbing our probes in the main and sending them to other bases. And this is also when you could be like, you know what? I want to make like a cannon in each one of my mineral lines. And I'm okay with it now. I think right because you're getting ready to move out. We could also send a zealot on the top side, a zealot on the bottom side, because again,
only when you move out, you put in the static defense
yes.
when you got your army maxed.
Yep, because your army should be doing the job before that. And we maxed out right now at like 925. And look at our upgrades too. We're about to be charged 2/2 timing. So as we move out across the map, all of our bases have static D. We're moving out with, we need to make these Archons. We're moving out with our actual army. It's a huge fucking army, and it's just going to be a 2/2 charge lot timing with Stalker Colossus. And again, if this was mech, you could have made, you could have just made Disruptors instead of Colossus, and you also could, if you make Zealots, you should realize you should kill Economy. If you make pure Stalker, that would be also good against mech. That's fine. And then now, yeah, but just basically killing him. And you can keep chrono boosting your upgrades to all the way to 3/3. And then you could even at this point too, you could do shit like if you went back to like your base and make like an extra like 6 fucking gates, maybe even make like a second robo, just so you can hit remaxes really fast. Because now that you have 80 probes actively mining the whole time, your economy is gonna boom like crazy while you're already maxed, and you could actually remax repeatedly really fast. Well, this timing is strong as fuck. And if you play against Bio with this, you're going to steamroll Bio like crazy. It will not even feel close. If you can do the build the way I just did it with like the timings and the efficiency of that, you will fucking murder Bio. This build is definitely not diamond efficiency. This build is
that's awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's
that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. And then just know I did get Storm as well. You can also get Templar to Storm if you want to try to do that too. It is very viable. And that's something you will start doing eventually. It becomes a necessity once you get higher in Diamond, maybe towards Masters. But for now, you could just practice it the way I just did it. Just make Archons instead. And don't worry about Storm yet. And you'll be fine. Alright, dude. Have any questions about anything? Anything that makes sense, or how you feeling?
No, that was great, man. That was super helpful. I'm just going to practice against that template and yeah, get out of Diamond. See you in Masters. I'll come back for another lesson.
Sounds good, dude. Well, good luck. I feel like that's just understanding like the efficiencies of that. It'll definitely make you feel good too, because you'll be like, oh wow, I scouted him and I'm not really sure what's happening, but he attacks me and suddenly, just because I'm playing really efficient, he shows up and I just crush the shit out of his army. It'll happen a lot. You'll be like, wow, okay, these guys just, I just keep running them over and over and over and over. The only time you should ever be worried about what they're doing is like if they just don't have a natural ever. And you're like, okay, well, you're actually one basing me. Then things need to be deviated a little bit. Like maybe don't chrono probes anymore. Chrono your gates and chrono your robo faster, and then make shield batteries. That's like a great way to react to one base players. And that's like the only deviation. But most people, I would say, most people do standard openers, at least up to 2 bases. All right, dude. Well,
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, dude. I really appreciate it.
yeah, I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for doing a lesson, and yeah, crush fucking Diamond League, dude. You got it. All right, take it easy, man.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. Cheers.
All right, guys, that has been a coaching lesson with me, Mr. ViBE. I will be uploading that as of later tonight to tomorrow. Fuck, I forgot to tell him that. Yo, I'll whisper him privately, whatever. It's not a big deal. But yeah, guys, thank you for watching the replay or the coaching lesson. Jesus, thank you for watching the coaching lesson. If you guys liked it, check out more. I have many more just like this if you're interested. But until next time, good luck to each and every one of you as well, and I will see you guys later. Peace, everybody. Goodbye.